All right, guys. So we have a CBS News reporter apparently criticizing JD Vance's supposedly speech that he gave in Munich in Germany. And this CBS News reporter, Margaret Brennan, I mean, she makes a horrible comparison or says that supposedly because of free speech, that is why Germany was able to do the things they did because of free speech, because free speech is a dangerous thing that apparently um, creates a totalitarian government because of free speech, because of the hate and everything, because the allowing of people to say the things that they need to say apparently creates a dictatorship. And so how stupid of her to even try to say something like that. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, how stupid of fucking Margaret Brennan is she fucking retarded? I think she is retarded. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like, what are we doing here? Let me just play this clip of apparently her being. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the
Well, I have to
censorship
disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history. I also think it's wrong. Again, I go back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about. And I think allies and friends and partners that have worked together now for 80 years should be able to speak frankly to one another in open forums without being offended, insulted, or upset. And I spoke to foreign ministers from multiple countries throughout Europe. Many of them probably didn't like the speech or didn't agree with it, but they were continuing to engage with us on all sorts of issues that unite us. So again, at the end of the day, I think that people give all. That is a forum in which you're supposed to be inviting people to give speeches, not basically a chorus where everyone is saying the exact same thing. That's not always going to be the case when it's a collection of democracies where leaders have the right and the privilege to speak their minds in forums such as these.
Mr. Secretary, I'm told that we are out of time.
Of course, she was told she was out of time. Why wouldn't they be out of time? Why would they have to be out of time? I mean, cut to commercial or something? I mean, what's going on here? Cut out of time because obviously Marco Rubio was actually saying something that was correct and reasonable and basically spitting facts about like how JD Vance was only there to criticize the the European nations about how they're slowly becoming totalitarian, slowly eradicating free speech, slowly kind of just like becoming this sort of like a communism country where your freedoms are slowly taken away by this idea that this all started with like the hate speech, misogyny, not being able to criticize people for the way they looked, fat shaming, stuff like that. And I feel like with the LGBTQ movement and all that, I feel like this was a perfect opportunity for whoever ideas was this to like kind of inject themselves into trying to change the laws and to trying to create this sort of narrative and to try to manipulate the people and sort of change how people can express themselves and how they can, like, just communicate as a, as people of the country, to take away the rights of people being able to express themselves, to not have the freedom to criticize their government, to not be able to just basically speak their minds. It's a dangerous path because it literally destroys the whole idea of a democracy. And what you have left is a totalitarian government who controls the way you act, the way you should think or say things. After that's gone, there's no telling what other freedoms will be gone as well. Why stop at freedom of speech when they can keep going and take away other freedoms? And they'll lie to your face because of it's for your safety, because it's the betterment of the country, because it will make us be safer. No, fuck that shit. You won't be safe. You'll be ruled by a tyrannical government that will only. You'll be treated like a child. You'll be treated like someone that's less than a human. Your rights as a human being, just the mere of your existence, will be less than limited. And it's a very dangerous road that these European countries are heading down, because what's going to end up happening is that they'll slowly take away their citizens' rights, and then what? After all this struggle and I guess what I'm trying to say is that eventually I feel like there's going to be another Hitler because of all this. I feel like it's an inevitable thing that another tyrannical force will arise, and who knows? It could be a group of countries. It could be one country out of this European, under NATO and stuff like that. Who knows? It's just there's no way of telling what is to happen. If there could be something down the line that could. I just hope there isn't a World War III. We keep thinking, oh, it's going to be from Russia, with Ukraine and stuff like that. But no, you think so much about the enemies being China and Russia. Sure, they are enemies in a sense. And they have their own agendas, their own sort of, their own journeys of what they want to do, their end games. But there's definitely a cause for concern over these European countries. I mean, there could be an enemy within, invading within these countries, growing and manifesting slowly. I mean, for God's sakes, I think in the UK or in Ireland, there was this man who wasn't allowed to pray in front of an abortion clinic because apparently they had lost their child to an abortion years ago, and so somehow he was praying for the kids that were being aborted or something, or maybe for his own child that he had lost, and so he was just standing there far away from the abortion clinic. And so the police came, questioned him, what exactly is he praying about, and apparently he got prison or jail time. And little things like that are slowly manifesting in these countries. And the fact that people are so against JD Vance's speech that he did a few days ago is telling of how scary this is. The fact that people, you can agree or disagree all you want, But who in their right mind would be angry at the speech that he gave, or even disagree to that matter? Granted, everyone has their opinion, but who would be so against free speech? Who would be so against the right to be able to say what you want and to express yourself however you want? Countries need their citizens to be able to express themselves. They can't be afraid of their citizens. They have to they need their citizens to be expressive, to demand more of their leaders, to speak their minds, to rise up and ask or hold accountable their own leaders. It's that freedom of expression. And without that, you could have a whole government ruling over you by force. And that's the whole point of democracy, is that you have opposing views. You are not always going to agree with everyone. Sometimes there are disagreements. There are different perspectives. There are different ways of looking at things. And because you have a different opinion, there might be another way to look at other things in a different way, in a different perspective. But without the freedom of speech, you only have one voice and one party and a totalitarian government like the Nazi Germany, like literally ruled with an iron fist, committing genocide against Jews. So the fact that, going back to the video that we just saw right now with news reporter, CBS news reporter Margaret Brennan, to say that totalitarianism like Nazi Germany arose because of free speech, it's so fucking retarded. I'm sorry, but she's retarded. She's retarded for saying that. She's retarded for even listening to her bosses telling her to say that. It's these media companies are literally, how can anybody even watch these news organizations anymore? How can they rely on them for facts and for the truth? They're literally a machine for propaganda. And now is a time to literally push these media companies away, and like literally we have no use for them. There's no point in having them. We have gone beyond that. There's podcasts, there's YouTube channels that report news all the time, better and more accurately. With with podcasts, you have people who actually report and have conversations instead of just always like this 1 or 2 minute sort of little time slot that you get, and you can't really express your opinions to the fullest. And even if you do, you're the show that you're on, you're edited, you're sort of like your image or what you say, the words that you say are manipulated, and they take things out of context without giving you the actual full context of what you're actually trying to express. And that censorship, it's biased, and it doesn't allow the full expression of the truth. How can the news report on the news on being accurate when they only show you one side of it, instead of showing you all sides, good and bad, all opposing views, and not be biased? It's scary times that we live in. Definitely scary times. And the fact that people are against J.D. Vance's speech and what it, and what he's talking about, making sure that countries in Europe protect the right of freedom of speech and to uphold that democracy that all of the U.S. and all these first world countries cherish so much. It's what makes us so special. It's what makes us better than Russia. It's what makes us better than China, North Korea. And without that democracy, what do we become? You know? Who else will stand and fight against this totalitarianism if, you know, if those simple rights get taken away? Oh man, it's scary to think about what could happen and the path that these countries are sadly going down to. I mean, we'll see. But thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Definitely like and subscribe. What do you guys think about J.D. Vance's speech? This news reporter, connecting having free speech to being a totalitarian government, being a dictatorship or something like that. Crazy times.